looking at someone, or swearing, or lying, or so on and so forth. Can it stop you? If it can stop you from committing a worldly sin, then it has the ability to stop you being punished in your grave. It will help you in your afterlife. They say, again I'll open some brackets here, they say, there's hadith that says the fishar al-qabr, the azab al-qabr that you get, the pressure of the grave once you're buried, is so extreme. So don't look at it that the ground doesn't move, it's all steady, you think, oh, it's okay, it's still 6 by 6, it's fine. No, the azab al-qabr is so much that Allah has said it will, basically your cells will be squeezed so much that the milk you drank when you were a baby from your mother will come out of your mouth. You know, sometimes when you get squeezed, you might like feel something come up to about here, some food you've just eaten or something. I don't mean to be so grotesque, but I need to understand it. Allah says that the grave will squeeze you so much that the milk you drank when you were a baby from your mother will come out of your mouth. And me and you were like, yeah, so what, let's just do whatever we want to do. No. If this prayer has the ability to stop you from sinning in this world, believe me, it will stop the fishar al-qabr, the azab al-qabr of the next world. Now, there's another hadith that I find extremely interesting. It's touching on Brother Etizaz's point about prayer. It's not only just this, but it's got to be able to help you with your day, what you do in your day, so on and so forth. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has said, when someone came to him and said, what is salat? He said, Inna salat, nahnu salat. What does that mean? It's the same as, for instance, when they say, who's the Quran? What's the Quran? We have a Quran which is a book, and we have a Quran which is the Quran al-Natiq, we say, which was the AhlulBayt alayhi salam. They were the walking, talking Qur'ans. Same. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam here has said that prayer isn't what you guys do. It's not that thing that you, Allah, are finished. Prayer is us. We are prayer. As in, yes, I'm not saying now, okay, so you can forget prayer now and just say, okay, let's just do what the AhlulBayt did. No, because they used to pray too, so we see that, no, we have to pray. But what is prayer? It's acting how they acted. It's doing what they did. It's following their footsteps, like we said yesterday, that it's action, not just the knowledge. It's acting on what you know, and it's following their way. They are the true Salat. They are the true Quran. And if we follow how they did things, then that's what we should be aiming for, desiring for. That's our goal. Yeah? Not just finish a prayer. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I'm sorry to put it so crudely, he didn't die for mine and your prayer the way we pray it. For my prayer the way I pray it. He didn't die for my prayer because my prayer is nothing. It's not even the dirt on the bottom of his horse's feet, let alone his own feet. So let's do something that our prayer at least means something to him. That he can turn and say, okay, I gave my life, I gave my family's life for a good reason. That now, 1400 years later, there are Shias, young Shias, not old Shias. Old Shias always turn back to Allah because it's the end of their life, they've had their fun. It's the young Shias that are still praying with huzur zeh, like with, concentration, with understanding, not just finish. When we stand to pray, we often, a lot of the time, I've seen it, your phone rings, you turn it over to see who's ringing, and then you're like, okay, I'll press cancel button. When you're during a prayer. Or like someone walks in the room and you're like, turn the cooker off, the food's burning, And, do you see what I mean? As in, we talk to people while we're standing there talking to Allah. It's funny, it's really funny, but we all do it. We like the kids like on the couch jumping around. You're like shouting at him because he's gonna fall off and smack his head, but we're doing something like Allah. Do you know what I mean? I know you got that as well. Yeah,
Did I tell you to do that?
And that's exactly how it is. I mean, amongst the ulama, they have this like a story, right, to explain it basically. And there's someone called Mullah Nasruddin. Now, before I continue, Mullah Nasruddin wasn't actually a person. So before we say, oh, we're doing the daybat of someone like that actually used to live and so on and so forth, Mullah Nasruddin is actually a made-up person that has no origin. Now we get people saying, oh, Mullah Nasruddin was from Pakistan. No, he was from Iraq. No, he was from Iran. No, Mullah Nasruddin never existed. But that's the beauty of the people of the olden days. The beauty is that they used to make up someone to throw all the jokes on that made-up person so no one would ever get offended. And no one could ever do gaybat. He's a made-up person, Mullah Nasruddin. He did this, he did that, everyone laughed at him. That's the beauty of it. Nowadays we laugh at each other, unfortunately. Now, Mullah Nasruddin, one day, he says, he's praying, and his next door neighbour comes in. And his next door neighbour says to him, I was wondering if I could borrow some onions. And he sees Mullah Nasruddin's in prayer and everything. He waits for him to finish. Mullah Nasruddin says, sorry brother, I was praying and so on. He says, okay, it's fine. Just, we're cooking next door, nice curry. Can we borrow some onions? Mullah Nasruddin says, yeah, sure. He gives him a couple of big onions. A couple of days later, Mullah Nasruddin's praying. His neighbour comes in and he sees, oh, he's praying, okay. So he tiptoes in, he puts the onions on the table, and as he's tiptoeing out, Mullah Nasruddin says, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And that's, because he's translating, I gave you big onions, you bring me little onions, get out of here. As in, this is sometimes the prayer we pray. We're talking to Allah, we're talking to each other. You know, how disrespectful is it? Imagine if you're talking to someone and they're like, yeah, I'm listening, yeah, just carry on, I'm listening. You know, you get offended. And this is what we do to Allah. Allah is standing there listening to our prayer, and we're like talking to someone else, you know. It's bad. It's very bad. Anyway, that's just a joke to liven it up a bit, because I can see some people are getting a bit tired. Okay, so what's a true prayer then? Who do we look for to understand what a true prayer is? As Shia comes from the word follower. Of who? Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam. Obviously not Muhammad, because Sunni and Shia follow Muhammad. But Shia follow Imam Ali alayhi salam. So we look to him to see how did he pray, that we should then take note and pray like that. Now,
just making some impressive notes, mashallah. Just, emphasize.
You've all heard of the Battle of Siffin, where Imam alayhi salam, he had an arrow shot in his thigh. He had an arrow shot in his thigh, and they tried to pull it out, and it was agonizing pain. He was saying, leave it. People would try and hold his hands down, his legs down to pull it out. He'd throw them all over the place. He said, Imam alayhi salam, it's no joke. And in the end, they gave up. Forget it. 10 men can't handle this guy. Just, what do? See his son. Who do we speak to? His son. They approach Imam Hassan alayhi salam. They say, Imam Hassan, as you know, your father's been shot in the thigh. We need to remove this arrow quickly. The longer it stays in, the more damage it's going to do, so on and so forth. What should we do? He said, okay. He thought about it and he says, you obviously don't know Imam Ali alayhi salam. And they said, no, of course we know. The commander of the faithful, he's the person leading. He said, no, not like that. You want to get him when he's virtually unconscious, get him in his prayer. He says, wait for a couple of hours. Let the sun set. When my father stands for prayer, take the arrow out. They said, we take the arrow, he'll break his prayer. What do you want to do? Have Allah punish us for ruining his prayer? He said, trust me, that's the only time it will work. Now some people, they question this. They say, how is it possible that someone can be so engrossed in something like worship that they can't feel a physical pain? I give the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. When Zulaykha was made fun of because she tried to seduce Yusuf alayhi salam, all the ladies found out of the city. They started laughing at, oh, look at you, you've got the king as your husband and you go after a slave, a dirty slave. They never saw Yusuf. And she said, okay, just to save my respect and prove to these people that it wasn't in my hands what I tried to do. I was overtaken by the beauty of Yusuf. I'll invite them all. So she invites all the ladies of the city for a banquet. They all come in, they sit in this nice hall, gold, this, that, carpet, whatever. And the servants come round serving fruit. Everyone takes an orange and they have a knife. Then as they start cutting the orange, Zulaykha, she says, the guard goes and calls Yusuf. Yusuf, walks past the door. He doesn't even come in. He walks past the door. All the ladies turn to look while they're cutting their orange. When they finish, they find that they've cut through their hands. They find they've sliced their hands, their fingers. That they were so engrossed in his beauty, a man's beauty, that they'd cut their fingers and they hadn't even felt it. And Zulaykha then laughed at them. He said, you laughed at me? Look at yourselves. Look at what you've done to yourselves over his beauty. And he just walked past. You weren't even locked in a room with him. Even though she locked it herself, but still, that's part of the point. So that shows that sometimes you think about something, your mind goes somewhere, you say mind over matter, your mind goes somewhere that you forget your physical pain. Imam Ali really knew who Allah was. That he, when he stood for prayer, he would pray to Allah. Forget everything else. Forget it. Middle of the war, forget it. Arrow in the thigh, forget it. And they removed the arrow from him while he was during his prayer. That's how we know what prayer should be like. That we shouldn't think of anything else. Now you might say, okay, but he's a Ma'soom. He's Imam Ali alayhi salam, born in the Kaaba, son-in-law of the Prophet, cousin of the Prophet, so on and so forth. Married the, as the Fatima Zahra sallallahu alayha. What bigger status, what bigger man do you want? You're comparing us to him? Okay, you have a point. Fair enough. Our prayer can never really reach that level. Never. Never even come close to reaching that level. But we can take certain points, which inshallah, if you're not tired, I will go through 5 or 6 points that we can do in order to take care of our prayer a bit more. So that at least we know how to prepare ourselves. Because honestly, some people, have you ever wondered why the place for prayer is called what's it called? The part right at the front, where the Imam stands? Mihrab. What does it come from? Mihrab. The root letters are? H, R and B. Harb. Harb. Why is it that the most peaceful thing in Islam, prayer, comes from the most violent thing in Islam, war? Why is it prayer comes from the root letters war? You know why? Because that prayer place, you are at war with the devil. You're at war with yourself. That's why. We never really understand this. When I had this, it really did shake my world. It's a place of war. You're standing there to perform jihad. Not jihad, getting an AK-47 in your hand and going out burning free brain. No, that's not jihad. And people, they have misconceptions about jihad. Everyone who hears jihad, every English person who hears jihad thinks, oh, it's about running and killing someone, blowing yourself up, Allahu Akbar. No, it's not. It's not at all. Jihad, the true jihad, Jihad al-Akbar. As we know, when people came back from the war, they were all happy. Yeah, Ya Rasulullah, we've won, we beat the enemies and stuff like that. Rasulullah said to them,